Hi there, and welcome to the kitchen. The reason why we're in here is because it's freezing out there and it's still quite early in the year, so I wanted to show you this about garlic in the snug and warm, because it's becoming time to plant garlic, and in this month's magazine my pages are talking about this stuff. Now there are lots and lots of different kinds of garlic from all around the world, and I suppose the very first idea that people have about planting garlic is to go to the supermarket, buy some garlic off the shelves, break apart what they call the bulbs, but they're not, we'll look at that later, break apart the corms and then plonk them in the ground. Unfortunately it hardly ever works, because the garlic you buy in the shops comes from Spain or Africa or South America, somewhere where it's warm all the time, and although they might have biggish bulbs there, when you put them in our freezing cold weather they don't do quite so well. So if you're going to plant garlic for food as a crop, then you need to buy garlic specifically grown for a northern European climate, and go on the different websites. I think there's a garlic chap on the Isle of Wight, and he does more or less everything garlic, and if you Google garlic on the website or even look in the magazine, you'll find adverts around this time of the year for garlic corms. Now there are two different types of garlic. There's hard neck and soft neck, and this is soft neck garlic that I've been able to get because as we start in the beginning of the year, it's quite difficult, because the way magazines work is you're always a couple of months ahead, so getting garlic for when this film was being made was quite difficult. Now here we have what is one corm of soft neck garlic, and I'm peeling away at the skins for you because I want to show you how a corm differs from a bulb. A bulb, like an onion, and garlic is related to onion, it's all in the same family. A bulb is made out of layers and layers and layers of swollen leaves, and the idea of making a good big onion is to get as many leaves in there as you can. Similarly with leeks, you can see the rings of leaves, whereas this is actually a stem. It's a swollen stem. If I cut into it, you'll see that there are no rings in there at all. It's all one firm stem, and if you can smell that, that gives you the next thing about garlic is the fact that its wonderful smell is actually coming from a chemical reaction between various enzymes inside the cells in the stem, and when it's damaged or bruised or cut, then the enzymes react and create this chemical called allicin, and allicin is really important in terms of garlic health, obviously, but also in terms of human health. I want to tell you a little bit of a story. In the First World War, the government used to pay a shilling a punnet, that is 5p, but in 1914, 5 new p, 12 old p was a lot of money, and the government would pay a shilling per punnet of garlic. And what they did, they macerated the garlic, they chopped it up very fine and smeared it on field dressings. So when a chap unfortunately was injured in battle, in combat or wherever, they would put this combination of garlic and field dressing on the wound, and it saved hundreds of thousands of lives, because allicin is antibacterial, it's antifungal, and it's antiviral. The research into this stuff gave way to, in the late 1920s, substances called sulfonamides, which they used to treat cattle and sheep and pets and all kinds of animals with, and even people. And unfortunately the research stopped when Fleming discovered penicillin, and they all thought they got a wonder drug, so the research on sulfonamides came to a halt. But this stuff, if you eat it, a garlic a day will keep the doctor away, and most women too. But it's really good to plant. Now how do you plant it? Generally speaking, I I tend to take most of the leaves off, but leave a little bit on. Oops. And then rather than, you see, the temptation is to quite literally push this into the soil and leave it. And when you do that, you end up with a problem, because what happens is the roots come out of this base here and they will push it out. As the roots grow, this will get pushed out of the soil. So the best thing to do is to use a dibber, make an indentation around about 5 to 8 centimetres, 2 to 3 inches, 2.5 inches sort of a depth, and then you plant in that and then firm in, because that will then allow this to grow nice and snug in the soil. Now, what kind of soil do you need? You need a really rich soil. Any plant that has to make, first of all, strong smells or strong colours or chemicals that are quite complicated needs a really rich soil in order for it to be able to do its chemistry and do that job. It needs a well drained soil. Despite alicin, they do rot if they're too wet. So it needs to be a well drained soil too. And I've tended to find that this plant does really well where there's been potatoes, because there's still quite a lot of residual nutrients in the soil. It's been dug over quite a lot and it's fairly free draining. Grow them about 6 to 8 inches apart, and if you need to thin them, then do so in the spring when they're growing. Now what happens is you plant this October, November, December, then you will get the best crop. Probably November is the very best time, but you can plant early and you can plant late. Don't plant any later than January, because they won't come on. They like to be frosted. The more frosted they've been in the winter time, the better the flavour, and they will then grow all the way through the spring and the summer, so that this time next year you'll have a good crop of garlic that will store well, and that's the important thing. It's no point having garlic that has turned to paper inside. Now you'll remember earlier on that I said don't actually take garlic from the supermarket and plant it here expecting it to do well. I'm going to rescind all of that, because what I do tend to do is, if I'm doing companion planting, or if I want to disguise something, or if I just want to mix a bed up, I'll get garlic from the garden, from the shop or the fridge or the cupboard or whatever it is, and plant it around things. So for example, if I'm doing a bed of carrots, the very outside of the bed of carrots I'll plant garlic, and the garlic won't necessarily come too much, but the aroma of the garlic will confuse insects. It also looks nice. It gives it a nice edging as well. So whereas it's not going to produce a big fat clove of garlic like these will, planting supermarket garlic around things. Sometimes if I'm planting something in pots, I'll do a ring of 5 or 6 garlics on the outside. And they I'm not sure if it works, but I like it, and you'll have to humour me on that. Now, we've said when to plant, we've said how to plant. How do we harvest? Well, at the end of the year you can pull up your whole set of garlic corms. They're all together in what might be looks like a bulb, but in fact it's a combination of corms, and leave them to dry a little bit. Leave them in the paper, in the sunshine, so that they cure up. So you get a nice set of paper, dried out paper around the garlic. This will then preserve all of those for a good 6 months if you keep them dry. The more paper, the better. So that curing process, that time when you actually are taking out as much of the moisture from the outside, the better. Cut off the top so that it doesn't evaporate through the leaves. Cut off the root, but then the root will actually dry up and form this cormy disc at the bottom. So garlic, get it in the ground October, November, and you'll have some fantastic crops next year.